This is like the first stage. You know there's a problem, and it's a real problem. Let's say you're not imagining some pain. There is a pain. Now the question is how you build a vision around it. Before you put together the team, you need to do a vision that will lead to a strategy. And for many executives in product management, sometimes it's easy to shoot out features, but they're not connected to a vision. So you see many product managers struggling to find a vision around that problem. So the problem can be solved in some kind of a hack, or you can solve it all together with a more holistic and more exhaustive solution that will take care of the entire pain.
Welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Just sit back, relax, and learn from the leaders of today. It's a journey. Each one is different, unique, inspiring. Let's get started. This episode is powered by J Ventures, a community-driven VC fund in Silicon Valley in partnership with Leumi Tech, sponsored by Homeward Ventures, Hippo Insurance, Upwest Labs, Synergy Global, Hillel at Stanford, Leap, Birthright Excel, Serona Partners, and in media partnership with C-Tech. Welcome to another episode of 20-Minute Leaders. Today, meet Omer Efrat, Vice President of Product at Torq. Omer is a seasoned product leader with 10 plus years track record in delivering successful world-class products. He is an alum of Kellogg School of Management and an elite military tech unit. He is currently the Vice President of Product at Torq, a groundbreaking cybersecurity startup. Formerly the head of product at AppsFlyer and vice president of product at Fyber, today Digital Turbine. Omer entered product management after 7 years as a software engineer. Omer Efrat, welcome to 20-Minute Leaders. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm really excited to talk about product and product development. Had an incredible career with product besides being at the Open University and doing your MBA at Northwestern at the Kellogg School of Management, being in the cyber defense sector, and then transitioning to being an entrepreneur, head of product at Songo Media, VP product at Fyber, then head of product at AppsFlyer, and now most recently VP product at Torq, looking at no-code solutions for security teams, which is obviously a crazy market right now with everything that's happening, and from what I believe is just the beginning of what we're going to see, a real revolution there. So lots of experiences, Omer, and in these 20 minutes, I want to understand from your perspective, what does it mean to build great products? And, being an executive product manager and leading teams of product managers, what is that like? And how should we go about thinking through this? So, Omer, tell me a little bit about yourself, and then we'll dive into products.
Perfect. So you kind of summarize it kind of like efficiently. I've been doing product management, I think, over 10 years now. Wow. I began as a software engineer, a software team lead, still in one of the tech units, very familiar story. I pivoted to product when I was an entrepreneur. In the company, me and a couple of other colleagues started, very interesting startups, won't go into details now, but there, I had one of my partners kind of took the role of the CTO, so I had to step back from the engineering role and move to the business side. And I think this is where I had to become a product manager very quickly, very aggressively. I was like, my job was to find exactly how we're going to meet that market need and how we're going to actually execute that. And this is, again, 2010, when I actually moved to the product side of the business.
Right.
I think since then I was...
Transitioning to the product side, take me back to that moment where you're now shifting your mindset, engineering, management, business, and now product. What was that change in mindset for you like?
It was, instead of thinking of how we going to solve the problem, I had to change my perspective of, are we solving the right problem, or which problem should we solve, or actually defining the pain of the customer, which was not easy back then.
Right. And so defining the pain of the customer, let's start there. If you were looking at across your career, the different experiences, what have you learned about identifying pains of customers and how to do that either well or not so well?
So again, just a disclaimer. My entire career was working in B2B companies, business to business. My entire experience and perspective is serving other organizations. So when I'm talking about the customer pain, it's usually some kind of business partner pain. So I learned that it's kind of still difficult to imagine the exact problem of your customer without feeling it yourself. This is something that, again, there's a lot of literature about it, but it's very difficult to sit and build a solution, as they call it, in the basement or, in your own labs without being outside in the field, which is the main challenge when you're trying to build a new product.
So perhaps a tangible example of where how being out there with one of the companies that you were with, where did that translate into a positive experiences and identifying the pain point that then translated into a good product?
Again, many expert product managers said it before me, but you really need to put yourself in the shoes of your customer. I can give some of the examples that we had in AppsFlyer. Maybe it was a very recent experience. We were trying to build something quite different than the experience we had in the company back then. It's some kind of a predictive engine. And the goal was to understand exactly how the media buyer or the user acquisition managers are facing the challenge of understanding how to manage their campaigns. Again, AppsFlyer is not a campaign management company, so we didn't have that knowledge. So we really needed to reach out to a very specific personas in our customers' organizations and look very deeply to understand how the process looks like, where exactly they're having that pain point that make the work inefficient or frustrating.
Do you do that simply through sitting with them and talking to them, through iterating over, POCs? How do you actually get into their minds?
Oh, great question. That's the actual challenge eventually.
Right.
So one of the ways, again, this is a bit extreme example maybe, but one of the ways I personally experienced those pains for this example was a couple of years ago when I actually had to sit in the seat of the user acquisition manager for some of those same clients. So I think when I actually experienced it myself, when I saw exactly what kind of challenges, what kind of frustration you're facing, when I sat again, let's say 2 years later, when I sat again with the same type of users, with the same user acquisition managers of many other big organizations, I could, even when I asked them the questions, I could ask those questions from a very, let's call it, knowledgeable position, because I knew their pain. I wasn't just asking general questions. I knew what they're facing. So I was just asking directly, I know that you have that and that pain. Tell me more about it. And then they could actually open up very quickly and share very deep insights about how they are trying to manage their business today and what are their pains.
Right. So once you get into their minds and you understand the pain point and you go out to solve, especially being in an executive position with product managers, how do you then structure your organization so that you can actually be agile with the product and develop the right one? What have you experienced that helped you manage the process in the most efficient way? Great.
So let's say that you got the problem right. This is like the first stage. You know there's a problem and it's a real problem. Let's say you're not imagining some pain. There is a pain. Now, the question is how you build a vision around it. Before you put together the team, you need to do a vision that will lead to a strategy. And for many executives in product management, sometimes it's easy to shoot out features, but they're not connected to a vision. So you see many product managers struggling to find a vision around that problem. So the problem can be solved in some kind of a hack, or you can solve it all together with a more holistic and more exhaustive solution that will take care of the entire pain. And this is, I think, in my 3 last roles was the main challenge to, okay, we saw the problem, we see it, we can allocate, we see exactly what hurts them. We know the problem is, we know how much money is behind that problem, but now we need to put together a vision that will solve it all together, which sometimes organizational-wise can be challenging because not everyone in an organization are happy to throw, to put huge amount of budgets on like setting up new visions. But that's like the
and
second
so obviously,
stage.
But so you're coming with a product understanding and you're understanding the pain point, and then you're coming to an organization that has R&D, it has business, it has sales and marketing, and you basically have to sell everybody on the conviction that you've had by understanding the pain point, right?
Yes, and you need to show the paper, you need to show the size of the problem, which means the size of the opportunity of how much, this is not just 2 clients problem or 2 small problem. By the way, this is very common mistake that people find a very good problem, but it's not big enough. So they're solving a small problem, which is fine, but it's not good for if you want to build a huge product or a huge company around it. Again, not saying it from a critic perspective, but sometimes you need to solve a specific niche thing, and it's good that you solved it. But in some cases, like companies that want to get to the next stage, or let's say the past unicorn stage, you need to think of, this is what we're dealing with in this industry. We're looking for the past unicorn. You need to solve really big problems. So you're looking for a problem, you're looking to prove that it's very big. And if you prove that it's very big and it's very clear, from here, convincing everyone or creating successful campaigns within the company, it's much easier. Assuming you have the
it almost sounds like it's it almost sounds like it's pretty similar to an entrepreneur that's coming to a VC to pitch on getting funding. It's the same thing. You're asking the company to fund you with time, resources, personnel, and cognitive allocation. And so, Omer, once you've done that, we found the pain point, we've convinced the organization about our vision, and we're ready to execute. Where are we at now?
So now we need to get the organization or the product org that is connected to an engineering org. You need both. And of course, you need sales and the other parts that let's assume they're already in place. So in this case, we need to think, or there's maybe I'll give an anecdote for something that is changing today. And the question is, how many product managers do you need for a certain project or a certain product or a certain company? And in the past, in Israel at least, again, my experience from Israeli companies around the past 15 years, product management grew in Israel from more a technical side, or you had R&D organizations, and then product came around. And when they came, they were like kind of wrapping the engineering team. So there was a very common thumb law to use of like how many product managers you need per how many engineers. So used to say like in the past, okay, you need a PM for every 6 engineers, you need a PM for every 8 engineers, and this is how you decided how big your product team will be. But today we see a completely different trend. It's happening today at Torq. I think it happened also in AppsFlyer, and it's happening in many other startups that I'm in touch with, that the amount of PM is derived from the size of the problem you need to solve. Let's say that today at Torq, I'm trying to solve a problem. We defined it as one problem, but it has many different sub-problems to solve. And each one of those sub-problems requires someone to really look deep and research and investigate and think exactly how you define and how you cut it narrow enough in order to give it a great execution. So the number of PMs today is equivalent to the numbers of issues I'm trying to solve. So even if you have a team of 20 engineers, sometimes you still need 8 PMs or 7 PMs, which 10 years ago would sound absurd, but today it's something we see in many startups around us.
Now, what do those PMs do in the life cycle of this product? So now that we have the vision and we're about to execute and we have the resources, once the engineering teams are running and they're working on the product, what do the PMs do at that point? I've always been curious. What does the PM of the product do? Once the engineer says, "Okay, got it, I understand, I'm starting the sprint, I'll talk to you in 2 weeks."
Yeah, so that's a great question. Some of them still ask that. It's okay. I'm joking. They know what they're doing. So maybe I answer it from another perspective of the difference between different types of PMs that used to be common in the industry. So in the past couple of years, they used to have technical PMs, which we'd call the inbound PMs that mostly work with the team, with the engineering team. And you have the outbound PMs that would be more out-facing and talking more to customers and doing more support and what's not with the market. So today there's a trend that I'm really I'm trying to go with that trend because I really believe in it, of using what I call full stack product managers, which means that a PM need to be inbound and outbound at the same time. I mean, together, not necessarily at the same moment, but they need to have the expertise of going down technically with the engineering team when needed, but also join a sales call and steal the show when needed. And I expect the same person to do both things in a very high grade. Again, some of them need to, if someone is coming from the engineering side, they need to learn more to become a better outbound product. But the way I see the growth and what I'm looking today in candidates is that combination. Now, because we did it like vertically, because now they're full stack PMs, I can break down the product to mini features that each feature has their own market research and their own execution and their own plan. And that feature is being managed, that sub product is being managed by a single person that is the owner of that capability from now and forever. So this is just like how first we divide the responsibility. It's not like there's one person that only talks to the engineering team and manages sprint and another person that is collecting market feedback. It's not the case. It's full stack, but full stack in a limited scope.
Definitely. Now, how do you close the loop? So with the engineering runs, full stack PMs are running, we have a product. What's happening now from the lenses of the PM?
Okay, so let's try to break down the day of PM at Torq, for instance, because now we have 7 PMs, it's already running fast, we are hiring more, so we can actually see what everyone are doing. And we have two cycles of planning, or let's call it 2 resolutions of planning. First, we have the quarterly plan. A quarterly plan is something that we do in the strategic level. Every beginning of every quarter, we have the business goal. It's the business goals of the quarter. Like we said that in the end of next quarter, we want to be with X amount of revenues. We want to be in X amount of clients of a certain kind, solving a certain type of issues, certain use cases. So then we align on the quarterly strategy. Then we see, okay, what are the features? We have like an offsite, some big event, and we break down the features or the product capabilities that we think we need in order to reach those goals in 3 months from now. It's not that far away. Again, this is not waterfall approach. We are not committing on a plan, but we just want to see what we need to work on in the next couple of months to reach those goals. What are the capabilities we're missing, and what is the order, which is like the 2 main things that products eventually is doing. Defining what we want to build in the next couple of months and in which order. And every line item in that list have a unique priority. It's not like everything is either half important and half not. We're doing it in a unique priority, so we know exactly what comes before what. And that's a very long and difficult discussion, but everyone are coming with lots of input from the market, with lots of research, so we can define it. Once we define what we're going to work on, then we're breaking it down with the engineer, then the engineering team is joining us, and we're breaking it down into, okay, we have this capability, let's say, just for example in Torq, we are adding an ability to do a workflow within a workflow, some feature. So now we have a product manager that is leading this. It's a very complex feature that many clients see in different ways. We need to align the views. We need to have some marketing around it. All of those capabilities, from talking to engineers and get a very good design to how we're going to build it, to the how we're going to train the business side of it to sell that feature and to make sure users are using that feature, is on that product manager that is now leading that product capability. So every day that product manager is waking up and thinking, how am I going to push in the next, again, it's in quarterly strategy, how am I pushing this product capability, and where does it stand now? What are the blockers? What am I still missing? What issues I need to solve in order to execute it faster? And that's kind of like the day-to-day work of the product managers. Again, the other cycle is the sprint, because the engineering team is working in agile form, but we are not the owners of the sprint. The sprint is something that the engineers are doing in order to manage their work efficiently, and we are helping them do that. But we are not owning the sprint.
Fantastic. Omer, I gained so much insight over these 20 minutes, and I really appreciate it. But I have two last questions that I have to ask you. Not about what the product management, but about your perspective on product management. Well, you transitioned quite a bit within the industry from different positions, and now you've taken on really incredible roles at some of Israel's proudest companies. So, why product management? Why doing product management for 10 years? Why continuing to do it and more companies? What is it about product management that you really love?
I love solving problems. Solving problems was the reason I became an engineer to begin with. And it was satisfying while I was doing it from the technical side. But eventually, when you want to find bigger problems and lead the solution in a larger scale, the product manager role gives you something completely bigger, the way I see it. Again, getting to engineering side is fun. I even do it from time to time, but eventually it's so satisfying to see that you found a user. You found eventually, even in big organization, there are some users on the other side that you see them using the product, and you see them that you hear the feedback, and you say, okay, we had a huge problem. We couldn't do all of that work we had to, and now thanks to your product, we can do that. Again, it's also helped to be successful on the business side, but seeing the reactions from the users when you delivering such product worth all of this hard work.
Beautiful. And if you had to choose a few words to describe yourself, or if I were to ask anybody that got to work with you in the last 10 years, who is Omer Efrat? What words come to mind?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think one thing I can, again, compliment myself about that, in many cases, I came with product visions that people did not believe that were possible, and delivered eventually. So I think this is what, again, if I'm looking for a compliment, that would be that, I guess. Finding big enough problems with big enough vision, and showing that it's possible.
Very, very cool. Omer, toda rabba. Thank you very, very much for these last 20 minutes. Really inspiring. And thank you for taking me through the life cycle of a PM and the way of thinking and the challenges, the sensitivities, the intricacies of this position, the way that you're interacting with the different groups in the organization, and then to build great products together. So thank you very, very much, and stay safe and stay healthy, and best of luck with Torq. Sounds like an incredible company.
Thank you so much for your time.